He walked into the jungle and never came back. He walked into the jungle and never came back. Not a rumor, not a campfire story, but a documented moment in history that still feels impossible. Imagine the year is 1925. On a narrow brown river in the Brazilian Mato Grosso, a small canoe slips away from the last outpost of so-called civilization and into a wall of green-black forest. In the bow sits Percy Harrison Fawcett, sunburned, lean, a battered hat pulled low. Beside him, his 22-year-old son Jack. Behind them, Jack's friend Raleigh Rimmel. Witnesses watch until the canoe is swallowed by the trees. That is the last confirmed sighting of one of the most famous explorers on Earth. This isn't a movie opening. This is in the letters, in the reports, in the archives of the Royal Geographical Society. Fawcett was not some reckless adventurer chasing a fantasy. He was a decorated British artillery officer, a master surveyor trusted to map the razor-edge borders between Brazil, Bolivia, and Peru. He had survived bullets in wartime, jungle fevers that killed other men in days, and expeditions so remote they might as well have been on another planet. If anyone could walk into the Amazon and come back, it was Percy Fawcett. And yet he didn't. For years, governments, newspapers, even occult societies had treated him almost like a legend. He seemed unkillable. But behind the medals and the careful maps was an obsession that had been growing in secret. Fawcett believed that somewhere in the vast, choking green of the Mato Grosso, there was a real ancient city, a kind of El Dorado. He called it simply Z. Not a pile of random gold, but the ruins of a lost civilization that, if found, could rewrite what we think we know about South American history. So, what have they found in his notes? Strange maps copied from older, half-deciphered documents. A mysterious Portuguese manuscript hinting at stone roads and temples hidden for centuries in the interior. Margins filled with calculations about climate and soil, right next to references to Atlantis, psychic visions, and esoteric rituals. Hard science and the occult stacked together like layers of a secret vault inside his own mind. Before he left, Fawcett wrote a final letter to his wife Nina. The tone is calm, almost cold. He tells her that if the expedition fails, they may simply disappear into the forest. He warns her, very clearly, that no rescue attempts should be made if that happens. Why would a man who knew the dangers so well tell the world, in writing, to stay away? Was this just caution, or a plan he never fully revealed? Months passed. No telegram, no letters, no signal fire on the horizon. Then the silence stretched into years, then decades. More than 100 rescue and follow-up expeditions plunged into the same jungle, chasing rumors, bones, and conflicting tribal stories about 3 white men who came, argued, vanished. Some searchers never returned. Others brought out skulls, fragments, and claims that this time the mystery was solved. But there is still no definitive answer, no confirmed grave, no proven camp, and no clear proof that Fawcett failed to find the city he was seeking. So what really happened in that green labyrinth? And what might still be hidden under the canopy where his trail goes dead? From Empire's mapmaker to prophet of a lost city, to understand why a man like Percy Fawcett could walk into that green void and never come back, you have to rewind the story by centuries. Long before his boots hit Amazonian mud, another obsession was already spreading through royal courts and war rooms: El Dorado. At first, it wasn't even a place. It was a person. Spanish conquistadors heard of a mysterious gilded man, a ruler so rich he was covered in gold dust and washed it off in a sacred lake. Imagine hearing that in a world where empires ran on silver and gold. Very quickly, the gilded man became a golden city, and then that city stretched into an entire region on the map, a shimmering blank labeled only with rumors. For centuries, expeditions marched into the interior, chasing lakes of gold dust, temples lined with plates of metal, and a single discovery that could bankroll a continent. By the late 19th and early 20th century, those old legends hadn't vanished. They'd mutated. The age of conquistadors gave way to the age of surveyors, and the hunt for El Dorado shifted from swords and banners to compasses and transit theodolites. This is where Percy Fawcett steps onto the stage. He began as the opposite of a dreamer. An artillery officer, disciplined, methodical, trained by the Royal Geographical Society in precise triangulation and cartography. His job was not to chase fantasies, but to kill them. You see him in the archives as a set of coordinates and letters sent to map the borders of Brazil, Bolivia, and Peru. In the jungle, he hacked through vines, waded rivers, and climbed ridges simply to turn blank spaces on imperial maps into solid lines of ink. But the jungle talks, and what he heard started to crack the official story. Around campfires and riverbanks, rubber tappers, missionaries, and indigenous guides shared accounts that did not fit the neat theory that the Amazon was a biological desert, too poor to support complex societies. They spoke of stone causeways swallowed by roots, of roads that went straight for days, of pottery mounds and strange ruins. Some even described pale-skinned strangers deep in the interior, and old roads leading to cities no one in Europe had ever recorded. Was this just another layer of myth, or a suppressed chapter of history? Then came the documents. In a kind of paper vault of forgotten colonial archives, Fawcett encountered one of the most interesting discoveries of his career: a 1753 Portuguese manuscript describing a ruined city hidden in the interior, with towering stone structures and wide streets. He collected fragments of chronicles, marginal notes, and half-legible letters that hinted at the same thing, and as the years went on, Another incredible discovery pulled him further: occult and theosophical texts claiming that ancient wisdom was hidden for centuries in remote places, including the jungle itself. Here, the split in him widened. On one side, the imperial mapmaker, bound to measurements and surveys. On the other, a growing prophet of a lost city, convinced that these scattered clues pointed to something real. He gave that something a code name, Z. Z, in his mind, was not a cartoon El Dorado dripping with bullion. It was a sophisticated pre-Columbian metropolis with monumental architecture, engineered fields, and roads binding a network of settlements together. To mainstream scholars, this sounded like heresy. The Amazon, they insisted, could never have fed such a population. Yet Fawcett believed the stories, the documents, and his own instincts were revealing a buried truth. Today, satellite images and excavations have found geoglyphs, vast earthworks, and traces of ancient cities under the canopy. So, what have they found? Evidence that the forest once held far more people and complexity than anyone admitted in Fawcett's time. In other words, part of Z may not have been fantasy at all. But back then, this conviction isolated him. That internal split between cool surveyor and burning visionary would shape everything he did next. He would design an expedition that was part scientific mission, part spiritual pilgrimage, and he was willing to risk not just his own life, but his family's, to prove that the lost city in his mind's eye was real. And when the moment finally came to step off the map and go after Z, he didn't go alone. Blueprint for a vanishing act, planning the final expedition, he had already tested the jungle, and the jungle had already tried to kill him. Years before this final push toward Z, Percy Fawcett had led multiple expeditions into the Amazon that ended in fever, starvation, and open mutiny, watching men waste away under clouds of insects and walls of green. He knew exactly how the forest could break a body, a mind, even a chain of command, and yet he still believed that somewhere ahead, a lost city was waiting. Imagine going back after that. For centuries, explorers who tasted the Amazon once never returned, their reports buried in dusty archives and forgotten documents. Fawcett did the opposite. Each failure became a data point, each disaster another clue, feeding an obsession. He became convinced that his Z was not fantasy, but a real ancient civilization, hidden for centuries in the interior of Brazil. Between journeys, Fawcett retreated to maps and letters like a man working in a private vault of secrets. He pored over old Portuguese chronicles describing stone cities and roads in the interior, cross-checking them with indigenous reports of abandoned settlements and strange ruins. Using his own survey measurements, rivers he had tracked, and stories he had carefully recorded in notebooks, he triangulated a rough target zone in Mato Grosso, near the Upper Xingu and the Rio Cululine. On the map, it was just a vague circle in the green. In his mind, it was the doorway to Z. So how do you approach a place like that? Most explorers of the era went big. Dozens of men, rifles, mules, and endless supply lines. Fawcett made one of the most interesting discoveries in his own strategy. He decided to go small. Just 3 men. Himself, his 21-year-old son Jack, and Jack's friend Raleigh Rimmel. No army, no show of force, just a tight unit he believed could move quietly, avoid conflict, and appear less threatening to local tribes. Was this brilliant or reckless? In the frontier city of Kuyab, the preparations felt almost secretive. While other expeditions announced themselves, Fawcett worked quietly, purchasing tinned food, hammocks, compasses, and simple medical supplies, then hiring a small group of porters to carry them toward the interior. In between these practical tasks, he sat down to write letters. One, addressed to his wife Nina, stands out like a chilling document in the story. In it, he strictly forbade any rescue attempts if they vanished, adding that if they disappeared, it would be no great loss to the world. Was this just grim realism, or a man already half planning to vanish? He even built a coded messaging system into the expedition. From time to time, porters would be sent back with brief letters, using vague references, partial coordinates, and careful wording so that only he and Nina would fully understand their meaning. The last confirmed message that reached civilization reported the party in good health, poised to leave the known routes and enter, as he put it, unknown territory. At the time, it sounded like progress. In hindsight, it reads like a warning. A few days later, at a place Fawcett had named Dead Horse Camp, where on a previous journey he'd been forced to shoot his dying horse rather than leave it to suffer, the 3 men made final adjustments, repacked their gear, and dismissed the last of their porters. Then they stepped away from the last marked point on the map. Ahead of them lay only blank paper, rumors, and the green wall of the forest. They walked into it, and from that moment on, history loses their trail. Into the green hell, the march toward Z, the jungle closed behind them like a door. Imagine that feeling. One step, and the last trace of civilization is gone, swallowed by a wall of leaves, heat, and sound that never ever stops. For Percy Fawcett, this was not a romantic backdrop. It was a hostile world he knew all too well. The air was so thick with humidity, it felt like breathing warm water. Clouds of mosquitoes and sandflies rose in black veils from every puddle. Machetes thudded rhythmically into vines and lianas, each swing releasing the sharp green scent of crushed vegetation. All around, an invisible orchestra of insects, frogs, and birds created a constant metallic drone. At any moment, a venomous snake could be curled on a branch, a hidden stingray could wait in the mud, and a calm brown river could rise overnight, and erase an entire camp as if it had never existed. Their route began in Cuiab, a rough frontier town on the edge of the Brazilian interior. From there, they pushed upriver by boat, poling and paddling against sluggish brown water, past banks where caimans slid silently beneath the surface. Indigenous and mixed-race porters hauled crates of supplies, food, ammunition, canvas, faucets, precious notebooks, and letters. But as the days went on, something strange happened. At each staging point, Fawcett dismissed more men, sending them back with vague instructions. The large caravan slowly shrank until only the core trio remained: Fawcett, his 22-year-old son Jack, and Jack's friend Raleigh Ramel. Most expeditions into this region moved like invading armies. They fired rifles at the first rustle in the undergrowth, burned villages, left a trail of fear. Rubber barons had, for centuries, carved their empires here with bullets and whips, and the memory of those atrocities lived on in indigenous communities. Fawcett was different. He insisted on avoiding firearms whenever possible. He believed respectful contact, open hands, and small gifts, mirrors, beads, tools could turn potential enemies into cautious allies. When arrows thudded into nearby trees, he ordered his men not to shoot back, but to stand still, shout greetings, and wait. Was this idealism or a calculated survival strategy? Either way, it set his party apart in a landscape scarred by violence. As they pushed deeper, the cost mounted. Food supplies dwindled. Fever came in waves, burning and then leaving them shaking and hollow. Jack's diary, where it survives, and reconstructed accounts speak of gnawing hunger, of clothes rotting off their bodies, of Raleigh's inexperience showing in small, dangerous mistakes. And through it all, Fawcett clung to an almost mystical confidence. He refused to carry a radio, rejecting the new technology. No lifeline, no way to call for help. Only his bushcraft, his compass, and a kind of fatalistic belief that destiny was guiding them toward Z. Then there was the secrecy. Even before leaving, Fawcett had been reluctant to share exact coordinates with the Royal Geographical Society. His letters home were oddly vague, hinting that the goal was close but never pinning it down. It was as if he were guarding not only a location but an idea, something he believed was too powerful or too sacred to let loose in the wider world. So, what have they found out there, he hinted, that could rewrite history? All of this tension converged at one place, Dead Horse Camp, named for the spot where, on a previous journey, he'd been forced to shoot his dying horse. It became the last fixed point in the story. Here, Fawcett wrote a final letter back, reporting good health, high spirits, and unshaken optimism. Then he made his most mysterious decision yet. He ordered the remaining porters to turn back. From this moment on, only 3 men would go on. No witnesses, no backup. They stepped beyond Dead Horse Camp and vanished into the green. From that line in the forest onward, everything we know comes from second-hand stories, rumors whispered in tribal villages, and scattered bones found years later. And one of the most interesting discoveries? Those fragments don't all agree on how the story ends. The jungle answers back, bones, tribes, and conflicting stories from that moment. The jungle didn't just swallow 3 men. It swallowed the story itself. And back in London and New York, that silence became a headline. Months passed. No letters. No coordinates. Nothing from the man who used to send meticulous reports from the field. Imagine the tension in the Royal Geographical Society's wood-paneled rooms as telegrams piled up and no news arrived. Newspapers ran breathless lines about the lost Colonel Fawcett, about a legendary city of gold, about a British hero who had vanished under their patronage. How do you explain losing your Star Explorer in a region you helped map on the world's behalf? Soon, the search for El Dorado spawned something else. A search for the man who went looking for it. Adventurers, soldiers of fortune, missionaries, even journalists plunged into the same green maze. Some staggered out with fever and half-mad stories about secret tribes and stone ruins. Others never came back at all. A kind of grim industry was born around Fawcett's name, as if his disappearance had opened a hidden vault of new expeditions, new risks, new graves. In the 1950s, one of the most interesting discoveries seemed to finally crack the case. A Brazilian expedition returned from the interior with a skull and scattered bones, claiming they had found Fawcett's remains near an indigenous village. For a moment, the world relaxed. Experts compared the skull to photographs, measured angles, wrote careful letters. The Royal Geographical Society even accepted the identification. The mystery, it seemed, was over. But the jungle wasn't done. Later, closer analysis revealed the bones didn't match Fawcett at all. The skull was from a different man. The age and ancestry were wrong, and the neat solution crumbled. So what have they found? A body, yes, but not the body everyone wanted. The proof was quietly filed away. Another dead end in the archives of this story. While the bones argued one way, indigenous voices told another. Some groups said Fawcett's party trespassed on sacred ground, ignored warnings, and were killed in a swift, brutal clash. Others claimed he survived for a time, living among them as a strange, determined elder who spoke of a city of stone. And then there's the famous account from the Kalapalo people. They remembered 3 exhausted white men passing through their territory, one of them limping badly. After they left, the Kalapalo heard distant gunshots in the direction of the trio's trail and never saw them again. Yet every story comes with problems. Timelines don't quite match. Descriptions could fit any number of desperate outsiders stumbling through the forest over decades. Imagine how easily a tale can bend when listeners arrive already convinced that a great explorer must have died heroically, or tragically, or mysteriously. Were these memories or mirrors held up to what outsiders wanted to hear? And beneath all of this, something even stranger lurks. Because in Fawcett's own letters and notes, hidden for years in family archives, there are hints that he wasn't planning a simple in-and-out expedition at all, and that the man everyone was trying to rescue might never have wanted to be rescued in the first place. Secret letters, occult visions, and the man behind the myth. Imagine this for a moment. While the world pictured Fawcett hacking through vines and rivers, the real drama was unfolding in a different kind of jungle altogether, the one inside his own mind. In letters to his wife Nina, written in a tight, almost military hand, he spoke not just of maps and rivers, but of destiny. He hinted that all his years surveying borders for the Royal Geographical Society, all the hardship and discipline, were leading toward what he called a single, culminating task. In private notebooks, he described Z as the point where his life's work, the fate of the jungle, and some higher plan would finally converge. This wasn't just another expedition. It was a final mission he believed had been waiting for him for centuries. To understand that, you have to step into another hidden world. Early 20th century spiritualism. Back in Britain, Fawcett moved in circles where seances were as common as dinner parties. Theosophists whispered about ancient wisdom preserved in remote communities. Mediums claimed to speak with ascended masters. In surviving documents and second-hand accounts, contemporaries quietly suggested that he consulted psychics about the location of his lost city. Imagine an officer trained in artillery and topography, sitting in a darkened room while a medium described shining towers in the Brazilian interior. One of the most interesting discoveries in his intellectual vault was a strange text known as Manuscript 512. Preserved in Brazilian archives, it described a ruined stone city deep in the interior, with high arches, mysterious inscriptions, and a statue holding a tablet. Fawcett pored over this and similar reports, then blended them with esoteric ideas about Atlantis and lost races. In his notes, Z is not just masonry and streets. It is a fragment of a forgotten civilization, perhaps descended from an Atlantean people, guarding knowledge hidden for centuries from the rest of history. But the real fracture line runs through his view of the modern world. After witnessing the carnage of World War I, Fawcett wrote bitterly about Europe's moral collapse and spiritual emptiness. Factories, trenches, gas. He saw Western civilization as technologically advanced, but spiritually bankrupt. Z, in contrast, became a kind of utopian refuge in his imagination, a place where a wiser, pure society might still survive, untouched by industrial corruption. So what have they found, he wondered, living out there beyond the map, and could it be better than everything he knew? In letters to Nina, there are darker hints. He warned her not to expect a conventional return. He wrote that if he encountered a truly worthy civilization, he might stay, that his disappearance could serve a purpose larger than family or fame. It is as if he was already rehearsing the idea of vanishing, of stepping out of the archives of ordinary history and into a different story entirely. And this is where the mystery flips. Instead of asking how Percy Fawcett died, a more unsettling question appears. Why was a rational, decorated officer willing to walk away from empire, family, and identity into a myth? What did he believe was waiting for him in that forest that was worth the ultimate price? And was he planning, all along, never to come back and tell the tale? A century of obsession, treasure hunters, hoaxes, and new clues that question didn't just haunt drawing rooms in London. It detonated a century-long obsession. Imagine one man's disappearance spawning an entire industry of search parties, secret maps, and whispered jungle routes. In the years after 1925, more than 100 expeditions plunged into the Amazon, trying to trace Fawcett's last steps. Some were led by professional explorers with Royal Geographical Society letters in their pockets. Others were weekend adventurers chasing headlines and gold. A few of them never came back. The hunt for one missing explorer quietly turned into a chain of tragedies, each new rescue mission adding another name to the forest's archives. One of the most interesting discoveries about this era isn't a single artifact, but the pattern. A journalist named Edmar Morel claimed to have cracked the case, returning with stories of tribes who had seen a tall foreigner, and bones, he said, were Fawcett's. Brazilian and international teams followed, each emerging from the jungle with skulls, rusted equipment, or fragments of metal, announcing to the world that the mystery was finally solved. But when experts examined what they found, the evidence crumbled. Wrong age, wrong ancestry, wrong location. Again and again, dramatic press conferences dissolved into embarrassed retractions. And where there is mystery, opportunists appear. For decades, supposed Fawcett diaries surfaced in dusty trunks and private vault collections, only to be revealed as modern fabrications stitched together from newspaper stories. Sensational articles breathlessly reported that Fawcett had survived, married into a tribe, and was secretly ruling a hidden jungle kingdom. Self-styled insiders claimed to possess letters proving he had found El Dorado and chosen to stay silent. Under scrutiny, the ink, the paper, even the phrasing betrayed them. The myth of Fawcett became a playground, a place where forgery, exaggeration, and wishful thinking blurred into one seductive legend. Then the tone of the search changed. Modern anthropologists and historians stepped in, not with rifles and machetes, but with interviews, maps, and lab tests. They sat with the Kalapalo and neighboring peoples, recording careful oral histories of 3 white men who passed through, ignored warnings, and were never seen again. Researchers reconstructed Fawcett's likely route from his last letters and coordinates, then compared it with these testimonies. DNA testing on alleged remains, including bones once triumphantly labeled as his, quietly ruled them out. The circle of possibility narrowed, but never closed. So what have they found? Clues, patterns, probabilities, but no body, no final document, no definitive last camp. And then another incredible discovery, this time far above the forest floor. Satellite imagery and LiDAR scans began to peel back the Amazon's green canopy like a curtain. Beneath it, scientists found vast geoglyphs, road networks, and engineered earthworks stretching for miles. For centuries, this region had been dismissed as empty wilderness, incapable of supporting large, complex societies. Suddenly, the ground itself was revealing a different history. Fawcett's city of Z started to look less like pure fantasy and more like a distorted echo of something real. Advanced settlements had existed here. Urban landscapes had risen and vanished, their memory hidden for centuries under roots and soil. So did Fawcett stumble onto early evidence of this buried reality? Did he see roads, mounds, or ruins that no outsider was meant to record? And if he did, was it the jungle, its people, or something even more mysterious that made sure his discovery never reached the outside world? Did he find Z? Theories, evidence, and a vanishing point. So, what actually happened at that vanishing point? After all the letters, the maps, the whispered coordinates, Fawcett, his son, Jack, and Raleigh Rimmel simply walk off the page of history and never come back. From that moment, the theory split like jungle paths: violent death, slow collapse, deliberate escape, or something far more secret. The first and most widely accepted idea is brutal and direct. Fawcett was killed by locals decades after the disappearance. The Kalapalo people described 3 exhausted strangers passing through their territory. According to their account, the men ignored warnings about hunting taboos along a sacred stretch of river. Then, one night, they heard gunshots in the forest. By morning, the strangers were gone. No bodies, no documents, just a story carried in memory. Anthropologists point out that this fits what is known of the region: strict rules, tense encounters, and a long history of outsiders pushing too far. It is, on paper, the cleanest explanation. But notice how thin it is. No physical evidence has ever been found, no bones confirmed, and details shift slightly each time the tale is retold. Imagine trying to reconstruct a crime scene from a single faded letter. That is what this testimony feels like. Then there is the quieter, more mundane possibility. Fawcett was nearly 60. He marched into one of the harshest environments on Earth, with limited supplies, no radio, and a stubborn refusal to bring a large support team. In the Amazon, a twisted ankle, a snake bite, or a simple infection can become a death sentence when you are days from help. Bodies decay fast, rivers rise, animals and insects erase every trace. For centuries, entire expeditions have disappeared this way, swallowed so completely that the jungle itself becomes a kind of living vault, hiding what they found and what they lost. But the most haunting theory suggests he did not die immediately at all. In his letters, Fawcett hinted that if he discovered a worthy civilization, he might stay. Rumors later surfaced of a white-bearded chief living among a remote tribe, a foreigner who had taken a new name and refused all contact. Was this just projection, or one of the most interesting discoveries about his state of mind? By 1925, he was disillusioned with European society, drawn to mysticism, and convinced that Z held spiritual as well as historical secrets. A man that alienated, stepping into a world that finally matched his beliefs, might choose not to return. Around these more grounded ideas swirl the fringe theories, secret societies guarding hidden cities, government archives quietly closing files, the notion that Fawcett found something, evidence of ancient engineering, lost texts, even a surviving enclave of an unknown culture that powerful interests wanted kept silent. These stories say more about us than about him. When there is no body, no final letter, the empty space becomes a screen, and anything can be projected onto it. In strict historical terms, the simplest answers still loom largest: a deadly clash or a slow, unseen death in the forest. Yet here is the twist. Modern archaeology has revealed vast networks of pre-Columbian settlements, geometric earthworks, and engineered soils across the Amazon. The wildest part of Fawcett's story, the idea that an advanced, organized, Z-like civilization once existed out there, may actually be the part closest to the truth. So what exactly was he wrong about? And what if the real discovery he chased was not a single golden city at all, but a whole forgotten world that our own age is only now beginning to uncover? The Curse of El Dorado. Why we still can't let go. Imagine a mystery so complete that it feels less like a missing person case and more like a spell. Percy Fawcett walks into the Amazon with his son, following a trail of letters, maps, and half-deciphered clues, and then the jungle simply closes behind them. No body, no confirmed camp, just silence. That blank ending is powerful, isn't it? It's the same eerie pull you feel with Amelia Earhart's last flight, or the lost colony of Roanoke vanishing from the record, a single word carved into wood and then nothing. Fawcett's story haunts you because it's the perfect combination: a charismatic hero, a clear goal, and a final chapter ripped out of the book. The Amazon is real. The danger is real. Yet the city he called Z sits somewhere between documented geography and myth, like El Dorado itself. For centuries, conquistadors marched into these forests chasing a golden king, a golden city, a golden lake. Each generation rewrote the legend, and each time, the jungle answered with hunger and disappearance. Fawcett was just the latest in that long line, from armored Spaniards to Victorian gentlemen with compasses and Bibles, to modern treasure hunters armed with GPS and satellite phones. They all projected their dreams into a place they decided was empty. Z became Fawcett's private El Dorado, a secret vault of meaning more than metal, a city that would prove his theories, redeem his career, and rewrite history in one incredible discovery. Gold was almost beside the point. What mattered was being the one who found it. Quick pattern interrupt. Before going deeper, pause for a second. After everything you've heard so far, which theory do you think explains Fawcett's fate? Killed by a hostile group? Lost to disease or starvation? Quietly choosing to stay and disappear into an indigenous community? Or did he actually reach some kind of Z? Pick one, lock it in, then go to the comments and write it out. And if you've watched this far, tap like and subscribe right now for good luck on your next big quest, whether that's a real jungle trip or just surviving another work week. Now, step back and look at the pattern. The legend of El Dorado was always about more than gold. It was about Western arrogance colliding with worlds it refused to recognize. The jungle was never empty. The lost cities were often cities Europeans had ignored, dismissed, or helped destroy. Indigenous guides, stories, and oral archives had carried fragments of the truth for centuries, but official documents and scholars treated them as fantasy. Here's the irony. For generations, experts said the idea of large, complex Amazonian civilizations was pure myth. Fawcett gambled everything on the opposite view. Today, with satellite imagery cutting through the canopy like an X-ray, what they've found inside the forest is astonishing. Vast earthworks, road networks, and engineered soils that reveal dense populations where maps once showed only blank grain. So, what have they found, really? Not El Dorado as a single shining city, but a whole landscape of societies that were hidden for centuries in plain sight. Which leaves one last question for you. What should we actually take from Fawcett's fate? Is it a warning about obsession and the cost of refusing to turn back? A testament to human curiosity, the urge to push past the edge of the known map? Or is it a reminder that some mysteries gain their power by never being fully solved? In the final section, we're going to open that question like a vault and ask what this disappearance really reveals about us. What remains in the jungle, legacy, lessons, and your turn so when you open this disappearance like a vault? What actually spills out? Not just one answer, but an entire archive of possibilities, each one as mysterious as the jungle that swallowed Percy Fawcett and never gave him back. Think about the arc you've just followed. It began with a blinding legend, a city of gold that obsessed empires for centuries. Then it narrowed into one man's vision of Z, not a fairy tale El Dorado, but a disciplined surveyor's dream of an ancient metropolis hidden in the green. Over time, that careful British mapmaker turned into something stranger, almost a mystic of the jungle, reading secrets in rivers and ruins. And finally, you watched a tiny expedition walk past Dead Horse Camp, step off the known map, and dissolve into rumor. So what have they found in all the years of searching for what happened next? Fragments, stories, bones that never quite match. Maybe Fawcett died violently, killed in a clash with a tribe he misread, or ambushed by outsiders who saw his gear as treasure. Maybe it was slower, disease, starvation, the jungle itself grinding them down, one fever dream at a time. Some letters and whispered accounts hint at something more unsettling, that he chose exile, staying with a remote community and refusing to return. And hovering beyond that is the strangest option of all, that something happened out there we don't yet have the language or the evidence to describe. No verified grave, no confirmed artifact, no final document. That absence is exactly what keeps the story alive. But imagine this. While the mystery stayed frozen, the jungle around it began to speak. From airplanes and satellites, archaeologists started seeing shapes under the canopy, vast geoglyphs, causeways, and earthworks revealed like letters in a hidden manuscript. What they found were traces of networks, not a single shining capital, but multiple engineered landscapes where tens of thousands of people once lived, farmed, and built. In a very real sense, Z existed, not as a golden mirage, but as sophisticated societies erased by conquest, disease, and time. That's one of the most interesting discoveries in this whole story. Fawcett was dangerously wrong about his own invincibility, and about the right to drag his son into that risk. Yet he was also right to question the arrogance that called the Amazon empty. His life and his disappearance sit exactly where courage, obsession, and blind spots collide. How many other lost cities are really lost ways of seeing? So where does that leave you? What is your Z, the big idea, project, or place that keeps pulling at you from the edge of the map? The lesson hidden for centuries in stories like this is not never go, but know why you're going and what you're willing to lose. Push beyond the known, but don't mistake yourself for indestructible. Now it's your turn to enter the archives of this mystery. Which theory of Fawcett's fate do you find most convincing? Violent end, slow decay, chosen exile, or something stranger? Do you think he actually glimpsed traces of a real lost civilization before vanishing? Tell us in the comments, then subscribe for more deep dive mysteries like this one. and share this video with someone who loves exploration stories. As the sun drops and the jungle closes in, imagine the trail at dusk, the mud smoothing over 3 fading footprints, as if the forest itself has decided to keep its final document forever unread.